In a world where AI is quickly becoming the most valuable and popular asset of our time, companies face an increasing threat in cybersecurity. The biggest question is, how will generative AI transform the cybersecurity market? We're going to break it all down for you right now on UBS Trending. Hello, everyone, and welcome to UBS Trending. I'm Anthony Pastore. Thank you for joining us today. I'm in the studio with Kevin Dineen. Kevin, good to have you back. It's been a bit since we've been able to talk about tech with you.
Yeah, great to be back. Thanks for having me in.
Good. So there's a new report that you and some other folks within our Chief Investment Office wrote called Tech GPT, a little play on the whole chat GPT thing, but really kind of digging into the cybersecurity aspects of not just generative AI, but all of AI sort of more broadly. So before we get to sort of like the overall transformation that is happening out there with AI, what are some of the key drivers behind defensive growth when it's within the cybersecurity realm?
I think I break them into a few categories. You have an increasing attack surface. You have sort of an evolution of threat actors. You have the value of data increasing every year. You have the cost of a breach increasing every year. And I just think there's this strategic imperative around cybersecurity. So tackling those one by one. When we talk about the attack surface, think about how many devices are connected to the internet, and then think about how corporations have evolved and how many, not only are employees connecting remotely, but now you have these really almost digital supply chains where you're connected to your vendors, your customers are connected to you digitally, and that just creates more points of entry for threat actors. And on the topic of threat actors, you've really seen an evolution there. So if you go back to when we were kids, you had what was called script kiddies, like friends of ours who might have just hacked away for fun. That became professional hackers. That became organized cyber criminals. You have nation state actors engaging in cyber terrorism and strategic hacking for maybe industrial policy. And then you've had the emergence of what's called the dark web, which is essentially crime for hire. So the whole environment's gotten more complicated, and at the same time, as the world's gotten more digital, data's gotten more valuable.
Right.
I've taken a look at the most valuable companies in the world and just thinking about like how much of their value is created because they own manufacturing plants or pipelines or energy fields versus it's a digital business. And what you see is the most valuable companies in the world are digital businesses.
Yeah.
I think it's really hard to find any business that doesn't depend on data. And the cost of a breach is going up a lot. So I think the average cost of a breach has gone from somewhere around $2.5 million per incident, if we go back maybe 5-7 years ago, to we're approaching $4 million per incident.
So that really kind of dips into my question for you, which is always how big is the cybersecurity market? Because as you just went through, there's not a single person who's watching this today who doesn't understand what it's like to either be hacked or be feared that they might get hacked into. Stores have gotten hacked into, websites have gotten hacked, governments have been hacked.
Yeah.
It's so pervasive right now. And like you said, I have many devices on my person at all times that could potentially be hacked. So the market must be massive now.
It is a big market, but it's probably not as big as you think. So the data that we see suggests it's about a $200 billion market, which sounds really big, but keep in mind that the global IT market, you can, depending on how you slice and dice it, it's easily $3.5 billion. So corporations are spending, a fairly nominal amount on security, and we think that sets the stage for growth. So, we think this is a $200 billion market that should grow durably over the next, 5-7 years or so into the double digits.
Is it the fact that companies now are finally realizing we really have to get ahead of this because we're not spending enough money right now on our cybersecurity methods? Now we realize how dangerous it really is because, like you said, data is very valuable. In a company like ours, where the data is client portfolios, et cetera, it's an extremely sensitive facility.
It's a board level issue now,
right?
Right. I mean, this is
not happening on the ground at IT level. This is the people upstairs.
It's still run out of the chief technology officer's office or the chief information officer, but it's board level policy, right? And even you've seen SEC regulations be put in place about companies having and boards having to sign off on, I'll call it their cyber hygiene. So yeah, I mean, it's just risen to prominence. And look, I think we can look back to there was a pretty prominent attack kind of mid-2015 where it actually cost executives their jobs, like C-level executives.
Right.
So I think that was like a real inflection point. And we just think that this market's primed to grow. And you know, the other thing that I think is challenging here is, for as much as it's become the strategic imperative, and I think everybody can understand the drivers, you know, one of the reasons we see cybersecurity keep growing is there's a chronic lack of cybersecurity professionals. So we've seen data that suggests, you know, the US has roughly 50% of the number of cybersecurity professionals that it needs. And that has implications for cybersecurity itself. It has implications for investing in cybersecurity companies.
Is that based on numbers of devices or market cap of companies? How do you determine at what 50% really is?
That 50% employment gap?
Having enough cybersecurity professionals.
That's based on some survey data that was done by an organization that focuses on identity theft. So they basically, the way I understand it, they went and polled a representative sample of companies and said, you know, how many cybersecurity, I'm paraphrasing.
Sure.
How many cybersecurity professionals do you have versus how many would you like to have? And it's like a 45, 47% number.
Yeah, I mean, clearly there's a real need there, and because the threat it's more than just an idea. It is real. It's happening.
Yeah.
So, but you know, a lot of people. We did a whole series over the summer here at UBS about AI, specifically ChatGPT and generative AI. Does generative AI kind of really entering the picture here on a more global scale impact the cyber market in a negative way, positive way, or is it sort of neutral? How does it really fit into cyber?
So I think it's not neutral, right? I think it's balanced between, you know, these sort of handful of negative factors versus handful of positive factors. So, you know, on the negative side, one thing that you have to worry about with AI is it doesn't matter what type of AI system you're talking about. AI is only as good as the data that's been given, right? So we all remember from our high school basic programming class, garbage in, garbage out.
That's right.
Even more so with AI. And I would even argue even more so with large language models, because what we've heard about and learned about is AI hallucinations, right? Like these language models, they're not necessarily geared to tell you the truth. They're geared to give you a coherent, cohesive answer.
That sounds like a human being.
Right, with the set of facts and data that they've been given. So there's this concept called data poisoning, where if you were to go and muddy the data that an AI system is using, well, you're going to really destroy the quality of those answers.
Right.
At the same time, if we take it to a broader level, AI has been used for cyber attacks, to engineer cyber attacks. If we focus on ChatGPT, you could use ChatGPT to write code. You could use ChatGPT to write malware.
That's right.
Now,
malicious code is easy if you know how you're doing it.
Right, and you know, so that's the downside, right? That's the threat from AI. But on the upside, on the positives, you know, we are seeing AI tools be deployed to increase cyber hygiene, to improve the cyber posture. And we look at companies that are collecting literally billions of cyber events every single day. They're rinsing that data through their own AI platforms, and they're driving better cyber outcomes for their customers.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, if you are a company who's getting into using large language models or generative AI, you can actually have it find solutions to cyber issues for you, and then implement those, even using it, or maybe outside with the human beings taking control of what ChatGPT recommended to it. So it's a cool tool. Obviously, it can be used like anything that's really worth it. It can be used for bad or good actors. So Kevin, really this kind of boils down to, for investors out there, clearly there is a need for more cybersecurity, which potentially means if companies are getting in line to start adding that to their company, sort of through line and their tasks for next year and the years to come, there's a really good investment case here. So what is that?
Yeah, so look, I think you have a very strong secular narrative that we can all understand, right? I don't think there's anybody who doesn't understand the need for cybersecurity, and we walk through some of those more detailed drivers. But if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it, right? Of course. So we think about the industry, and the cybersecurity industry is an interesting industry, because the way I describe it, it's a fragmented industry of fragmented industries. So cybersecurity is not one thing. It's about 8 distinct markets. Within each of those markets, you don't really have a clear-cut share winner, and that has implications. You get good growth in the market, but what we see are margins across the industry are well below where margins in the software industry are. We also think that you have to be careful and really be selective and focus on platform companies rather than single point product companies. Because what we see over time in technology generally, in software specifically, and now we're seeing in cybersecurity, there's always this sort of pendulum where we go from best of breed single solution products to platforms. And I think that pendulum is swinging towards platforms precisely because of what we said earlier about the attack surface becoming more complex, the threat actors evolving, and a lack of cybersecurity talent. So you need a platform to consolidate more of those functions. So one thing that we've heard from chief security officers over the years is their biggest problems are that they have too many products from too many companies and not enough people to manage all of this. So it points you towards platforms.
It's incredible because it looks like, when we were going to school back, in it feels like the dinosaur ages, everybody wanted to go to medical school or go to finance. Now it's like, please go and get a tech degree because we need people to actually take this society into the next generation of digital transformation, which includes cyber. We need talent out there. So that's what parents should be recommending their kids go to school for as time goes on here.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen data from, I think it's the BLS, where they do some forecasts on sort of the employment gap, and cybersecurity analysts, cybersecurity professionals, that's clearly a strong area. And it's also an area where, like any market where demand exceeds supply.
That's right.
You've seen really strong wage gains.
And Kevin, thank you, man. It's a fascinating conversation and something that is only going to get more broad as we go down this journey. But it's always good to have you here. Thanks, Kevin Denny. Good to see you.
Good seeing you.
Great.
Thanks,
and for more information from CIO and our colleagues like Kevin, make sure you're checking out our Insights website at ubs.com/views. Plus, you can follow UBS on social media. We're on all the major channels, including Instagram, where you can find at UBS Trending, our dedicated channel just for UBS Studios content that you're not going to find anywhere else. And make sure you're talking to your financial advisor, everybody. Lots of opportunities within this space and others for your portfolio. Until next time, I'm Anthony Pastore. We hope you have a great day. And remember to keep your eyes on what's trending. See you soon.